All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. We've got an exciting one today. We're going to be diving into India's fintech revolution.
Ooh, yeah.
It's making headlines. It's relevant for your UPSC prep. I mean, come on.
Huge topic.
Yeah, so we'll be taking a look at a recent Hindustan Times editorial. It's called Lessons from India's Fintech Revolution. Right? We want to kind of understand, how did this whole sector evolve? What's making it grow so fast? What are the challenges? And how can India really kind of become like the global fintech leader?
I think that's the question on everybody's mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a hot topic.
Yeah.
So to really get a grip on this, I think we should go back in time a little bit. Like before the 2000s, I mean, India's financial system was a little bit,
Traditional.
yeah, I was going to say old school. Like we're talking brick and mortar banks, limited access to credit, tons of people just completely excluded from any kind of formal financial services.
Absolutely. I mean, huge portions of the population.
Yeah.
Really excluded.
And then we start seeing those early steps towards digitization, right? Like we're talking core banking solutions, ATMs. Remember those?
Oh, yeah. Those were big.
Those were a game changer at the time.
And NFT, RTGS, those were like,
Yeah, the first steps, right?
Yeah.
Baby steps towards this whole like digital financial system.
Well, it was huge for a lot of people because a lot of people, even just basic banking was new, right?
Right.
So these things actually got people used to using like electronic transactions, building trust in the system.
Oh, yeah.
Which actually then enabled more complex innovations to come in later.
Right. Okay, so we've got the foundation. Now let's fast forward a little bit to the 2000s, 2010s.
Yeah.
Things start to get really interesting. Two big players emerge, Aadhaar and IMPS.
Game changers, right?
Huge game changer.
Like Aadhaar, based on the biometric digital identity, it completely transformed how we did KYC verification. It was like faster, more secure, and IMPS and PCI launched that in 2010. I mean, that just allowed for real-time interbank transfers.
Oh, yeah.
Which was huge in terms of convenience.
Huge, yeah. And then, of course, you've got, things like digital wallets starting to pop up.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, people are like, wait, I can just pay with my phone. This is amazing.
Exactly. And e-commerce was booming during that period.
Oh, yeah.
So it was perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
And we can't forget those government schemes that came in, like the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan-Aadhaar-Mobile, PMJBY in 2014.
Huge.
Millions of people
that
were unbanked.
Yeah.
They were suddenly brought into the formal financial system.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a massive step.
Absolutely. For UPSC folks, that's a great example.
Oh, yeah.
Right, of a government scheme with social, economic, and technological implications.
Like a trifecta.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be a case study, I bet.
Oh, absolutely.
For the mains questions.
Social welfare, financial inclusion, even the role of technology in governance.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a big one.
Big one. Okay, so we've gone from those little baby steps to like a full-on stride now. But hold on tight, because around the mid-2010s, things just kind of explode.
Yeah.
And you know what really pushed things forward?
Monetization.
Yeah.
Controversial, but...
It really did. It pushed digital transactions.
into the mainstream, like, whoa, I have to pay with my phone now.
Like it or not, you're going digital.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then...
And then the real
There's
star.
our UPI, the Unified Payments Interface. I mean, this is a classic example of, like, need meets innovation.
Absolutely. I mean, it's simple, it's free, and it works seamlessly between banks. I mean, no wonder it's such a hit with consumers.
It's like, it's become synonymous with digital payments.
It has.
In India, has it?
It has.
I mean, for our UPSC folks out there, how would you even frame UPI in a prelims question?
Oh, absolutely. Or even a mains question, about the impact of technology on daily life.
Yeah.
You could talk about that.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this period, like we see so many fintech startups, not just in payments, but also in lending, wealth management, insurance.
Yeah.
Like they're disrupting all the traditional models, aren't they?
Absolutely. And they're targeting those segments that, traditional institutions were kind of ignoring.
Right, exactly. And then Zoom, we hit 2020, pandemic hits, and suddenly digital becomes the default.
The only option.
Right. Like contactless payments, digital banking, everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Fintech becomes like an integral part of life.
Part of life.
Right. And this current phase, it's all about like consolidating, like building a more mature fintech ecosystem. You see the account aggregator framework, the RBI's digital lending guidelines, BNPL, embedded finance, even the digital rupee. It's like crazy.
It's a wild ride.
Yeah, new innovations all the time.
Yeah.
So we've gone from those basic baby steps to a full-blown revolution. But the question is, what really fueled all of this? Like, what are those forces that pushed India to the forefront of the global fintech stage?
That is the million-dollar question, right? And any UPSC aspirant should be ready to answer that. And the first thing, you've got to acknowledge the sheer scale and speed of digital adoption in India.
Yeah, you talk about smartphones, right? I mean, everybody's got one these days.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking over 80 crore internet users. Most of them, they use their smartphones as their primary way to access financial services.
Right.
And with 5G on its way, this trend's only going to explode.
Explode. That's a massive digital foundation, isn't it? But it's not just about having the phone, is it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, think about it. Affordable internet access and the quality of that internet,
Right.
that's what really made a difference. Recent data shows that almost 90% of Indian households have both smartphones and internet connectivity.
Wow.
I mean, that's huge.
That's incredible. I mean, that's a powerful, powerful engine for innovation. But it's not just the tech, right? The government's played a pretty big role here, hasn't it?
Oh, huge role. Initiatives like Digital India, right? The Jam Trinity.
Oh, yeah. Jan Dhan-Aadhaar-Mobile, that was a big one.
Huge. And all those financial inclusion schemes, I mean, they've all kind of contributed to this growth.
Right. And the regulators, right, RBI, SEBI, they've done a good job of like providing that framework, that balances innovation and consumer protection.
Absolutely. You got to have both,
You
right?
got to have both. So like think about the digital lending guidelines, the frameworks for digital banking units and account aggregators. All of these are moving us towards like a more structured and secure fintech ecosystem.
Potential prelims questions there, guys. You should be familiar with these initiatives, their objectives, and their impact.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked about digital adoption, we've talked about government support, but there's one thing we can't ignore, and that's the UPI revolution.
Oh, it's a game changer.
It's a game changer. It really is a game changer in this whole story. I mean, what makes it so successful, do you think?
Well, I think it's that simplicity and accessibility, right? I mean, it's seamless re-time fund transfers between any two bank accounts, no fees. I mean, it's so easy and people love it
Yeah, it's become like the go-to.
for everything.
Peer-to-peer payments, even those little, street vendors are using it.
Oh, yeah, even small merchant transactions.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, it's not just confined to India anymore. There's this big push to take UPI global. We've got partnerships with Singapore, the UAE, France. Imagine that.
Yeah.
I mean, this could revolutionize international remittances and cross-border payments. Think about that. You could be asked about that in your mains exam,
Oh, absolutely.
discussing India's role in the future of global payments.
That's a great point.
It's pretty exciting stuff. And it's a perfect example of how India is using its tech, its prowess, to like really influence the global financial landscape.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about another area where fintech is making a huge impact, and that's digital lending. All those alternative credit models.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really interesting, especially from like a social and economic perspective, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about expanding credit access.
Those who traditionally, wouldn't have access,
Exactly.
SMEs, gig workers, people who might not have a traditional credit history, these fintech platforms, they're using AI-based risk assessments to make lending decisions.
It's pretty amazing.
And it's really opening up opportunities.
Yeah, it's democratizing finance.
It is.
Isn't it? Making it more inclusive and accessible. And you see all these digital lenders, peer-to-peer lending platforms, these BNPL models. I mean, the growth is phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Like, get this. The Indian digital lending market is expected to hit nearly $515 billion by 2030.
That's incredible. And for our UPSC friends, remember those statistics.
Oh, yeah.
They're gold. You can use those.
We need those numbers.
Yeah, to show the scale and impact of this sector in your answers.
Absolutely. All right, so we've covered payments. We've talked about lending. Fintech is also shaking things up in the world of insurance and wealth management.
Oh, for sure.
Right? We've got InsurTech and wealth tech platforms. What are they doing?
Making those traditionally, complex financial products more accessible and user-friendly.
Break it down for me. What makes them so different?
Well, think about it. AI-powered advisory services, robo-advisors giving you personalized investment advice, blockchain-driven insurance claims processing, all of this stuff is making these financial services more efficient, more transparent, more customer-centric.
It's like it's empowering people to take control
It is.
of their own finances.
Yeah.
Right. And speaking of breaking down barriers, let's talk about embedded finance. It's like a buzzword these days.
Yeah.
It sounds so futuristic. What is it?
Well, imagine, you're scrolling through your favorite social media app, right? You see a product you like, boom, you can buy it right there. No need to switch apps, no hassle. That's the power of embedded finance.
That's pretty cool.
it's integrated seamlessly, right, into those non-financial platforms. And it just makes transactions so frictionless, so convenient.
Like making finance invisible, almost.
Exactly. It's just part of your life, and that's where open banking and the account aggregator framework, that's where they come in.
Right.
Open banking, it lets you securely share your data, between financial institutions and third-party platforms with your consent, of course. And this creates this whole connected financial ecosystem. It allows for personalized and innovative solutions.
And open banking, I mean, this is a hot topic. It could easily be a prelims question about data sharing or a mains question
Oh, yeah.
about the future of banking.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is important stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, we've got to talk about this.
The big one.
The big one.
Blockchain and the digital rupee.
Yeah, a lot of mystery, a lot of hype around this. Can you demystify it for us?
So blockchain, at its core, it's just a secure, transparent way to record transactions, right? It's decentralized, can't be tampered with. And the RBI, they launched the digital rupee, which uses blockchain.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's a perfect example of how this technology is being used out in the real world.
Yeah. So the digital rupee, it's like a digital version of the Indian rupee.
Yeah.
Right. But it's using blockchain to make those transactions more secure and efficient.
Exactly.
And it's already like taking off. Reports say the number of retail e-rupee users is already at 5 million.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. This is something to watch because the applications of blockchain, they're vast, right?
Oh, yeah.
Cross-border payments, supply chain management.
So many areas.
It could really be a game changer. I mean, it could really be a key driver of India's fintech leadership on that global stage.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got digital adoption, government support, disruptive technology, a thriving startup ecosystem. It feels like India has everything going for it.
It does.
But it's not just about the tech, right?
No, it's the people.
The human element.
You got to have that human element. India has incredible talent, engineers, entrepreneurs, innovators.
Oh, yeah.
And the young population, they're so digitally savvy. They're eager to embrace new technology.
Yeah.
That combination, it's powerful.
Powerful. It's like a perfect storm.
It is.
Right. Everything coming together at the right time.
Yeah.
And the results speak for themselves, don't they? 2,500 fintech startups.
That's a lot.
In India.
Yeah.
Attracting billions of dollars in investments.
And the solutions they're coming up with, they're addressing real-world problems, transforming how we deal with money.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, it feels like India's fintech sector, it's on this unstoppable trajectory.
It does feel that way.
Fueled by this really unique combination of factors. But, as with anything that grows so fast, there are challenges, right?
Oh, absolutely. The road to global leadership is not without its speed bumps.
Bumps in the road. So in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to delve into those challenges.
Yeah, we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, and what India needs to overcome to really solidify that spot as a global fintech leader. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. We've been talking about all the amazing things happening in India's fintech world. But let's be real, no revolution's perfect, right?
Absolutely. And, for our UPSC folks out there, understanding these challenges is just as crucial as knowing the successes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's about that balanced perspective, being able to analyze things critically.
Right, exactly. So let's jump into some of the hurdles that India's fintech sector is facing. One that pops up right away is, regulatory uncertainty.
Yeah, it's tough.
Things are moving so fast, right?
So fast.
And the regulations, sometimes they just can't keep up.
And that lack of clarity, especially in those newer areas like AI fintech, cryptocurrency, data protection, it can make investors and entrepreneurs nervous.
Like walking a tightrope.
Exactly. Like you don't know what the rules are. It's hard to play the game.
Right. And remember what happened with Paytm Payments Bank back in 2024?
Oh, yeah, the RBI ban.
That was a big deal.
That was a shock to a lot of people.
It really highlighted how we need a more flexible regulatory system.
Yeah, one that can adapt.
Right. And evolve with this fast-paced fintech world. But we also have to protect consumers.
Absolutely. Consumer protection is key.
So it's all about finding that sweet shot, right?
The balance.
Yeah, where we encourage innovation, but also keep people safe. Now, another big challenge, especially in the digital age, is cybersecurity.
Oh, huge one.
I mean, everything's online these days.
Everything.
Our money, our data. It makes us super vulnerable, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Cyber attacks, data breaches, financial fraud. It's a real threat.
And we've seen it happen. Remember that surge in payment fraud back in 2023?
Oh, yeah. The losses were massive.
Over 1,200 crore rupees, just gone.
It's a stark reminder that cybersecurity has to be a top priority.
Right. And not just for companies and regulators, but for us too, right?
Oh, yeah. Individuals, too. We got to be more aware.
Strong passwords. Watching out for those phishing scams. It's a shared responsibility.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we talked about digital lending as a way to reach more people, give them access to credit.
Yeah.
But like any tool, it can be misused, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
We've seen those predatory lending practices pop up.
Oh, yeah.
Those bad actors who prey on people who are
High
struggling.
interest rates, hidden fees, all that.
Yeah, and those unethical recovery
It's
practices.
terrible.
It can trap people in a cycle of debt that's really hard to break free from.
Absolutely.
So regulation is crucial here,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, the RBI's digital lending guidelines, they're a good step. But enforcing them, that's the tricky part.
Yeah, enforcement's always a challenge.
Yeah, it is. And there's also that proposal for a central digital credit bureau
Right.
to keep an eye on all lending, even from those non-traditional players.
Yeah, keep everything above board.
It could help. Again, it's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah, that sweet spot.
Yeah, where we use digital lending for good, but protect people from being exploited.
For sure.
Okay, another big one, and this is a challenge across the digital world, data privacy.
Oh, that's huge.
I mean, fintech companies, they collect tons of data about us.
They know everything.
Our financial habits, our preferences, even like our social interactions. It's a bit scary, right?
Yeah, it can be.
I mean, how is that data being used? Who has access to it? What safeguards are there?
Big questions.
Big questions. We've seen those data breaches.
All the time.
Misuse of personal information. It happens everywhere. And fintech is not immune.
No, not at all.
So Wendy's got that Digital Personal Data Protection Act, and the new rules,
Right.
they're supposed to help, right? Provide a framework for protecting that data.
Laying down the law.
Yeah, but it all comes down to implementation and enforcement.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Right, exactly. We need to build trust in this digital world.
Absolutely.
People need to know their data is safe and being used ethically.
For sure.
Okay, we can't talk about fintech without acknowledging the elephant in the room. The digital divide.
Yeah, the gap.
The gap between those who have access and those who don't.
And it's huge in rural and semi-urban areas.
It is. The internet penetration is low, digital literacy is limited. Heck, sometimes even basic infrastructure like electricity is unreliable.
It's a big challenge. If we want everyone to benefit from fintech, we got to bridge that divide.
Right. So we need solutions that work for those communities, right?
Absolutely. UPI Lite for offline payments feature phone-based banking, vernacular financial literacy programs, things that are tailored to their specific needs.
It's about inclusivity, making sure that no one gets left behind.
That's the goal.
Exactly. Okay, let's switch gears for a second and talk about the business side of things. You know, a lot of these fintech startups, even with their amazing ideas, they struggle to make a profit.
It's true.
Why is that?
Well, it's expensive to get customers, especially in such a competitive market.
Right, everyone's fighting for those users.
Exactly. And they're spending a lot of money on marketing, promotions, discounts, cashback offers, rewards programs. It all adds up.
It's like a race to the bottom almost.
Kind of, yeah. And it can put a real strain on their finances, especially when they're just starting out and haven't figured out a way to make money sustainably.
And we're seeing that, aren't we? Fintech funding's actually gone down
It has.
in 2023. It seems like investors are getting a little more cautious.
Yeah, they're being more selective.
So it's a balancing act for these startups, right? They need to grow quickly, but also find a way to make money.
Absolutely. It's a tightrope walk.
And this is where partnerships could really help, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, think about those co-lending models between fintech firms and traditional banks. They both bring something to the table.
Yeah, like the fintechs have the cool tech, the customer focus.
And the banks have the experience, the infrastructure, the capital.
That's a win-win.
It could.
Right. Okay, one last challenge, and this one's about competition. We see a lot of market concentration in India's fintech world. Just a few big players dominating certain areas.
Yeah, it can be a problem.
Yeah. And it raises concern about monopolies, doesn't it?
It does, because when just a few players control everything, it can stifle innovation. And it creates an unfair advantage, especially for the smaller startups trying to break in.
Right. Take UPI payments, for example.
Oh, yeah, a classic example.
Just three companies, PhonePe, Google Pay, Paytm, they handle over 94% of the transactions.
It's a lot of power in the hands of a few.
It is. And the MPCI, they came up with those UPI market cap rules
Right.
to try and address this, to limit how much any one player can control.
Level the playing field a bit.
Exactly. But they've been delaying the full implementation.
Yeah, which is a bit concerning.
It is. So we need a level playing field, right?
For sure.
Where everyone has a fair shot, innovation can thrive, and consumers have choices. All right, we covered a lot of ground here, a lot of challenges that India's fintech sector needs to deal with. It can seem a little overwhelming,
Yeah,
but remember, every challenge is also an opportunity,
that's a good way to look at it.
right? And in the last part of our deep dive, we're going to explore some of those potential solutions, the roadmap for India to overcome these hurdles and become that global fintech leader we've been talking about.
The path to victory.
Exactly. So stay tuned for the exciting conclusion to our deep dive into India's fintech revolution. Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've explored the incredible rise of fintech in India, and we've talked about the bumps in the road. But now for the million-dollar question. Can India really become a global fintech leader?
I think India has the potential to not just lead, but to redefine what global fintech leadership even means. But to get there, we need a clear vision for the future.
Okay, so let's map out this vision. Where do we even begin?
Well, I think it starts with having a really solid regulatory framework, something that's comprehensive but also adaptable. We need a unified approach that strikes that balance between encouraging innovation and protecting consumers.
So it's about creating a predictable and stable environment.